Okay, so I was at the coffee shop today, and I completely forgot the word for lid.
Wait, you mean the plastic cover for your cup?
Yes. I literally just pointed at it and said, "Can I have a hat for my coffee?"
A hat for your coffee? Did the barista actually know what you meant?
Eventually, yeah, but I felt so embarrassed. Wait, is it really bad to forget simple words like that?
Not at all. Forgetting a basic word happens to absolutely everyone, even native speakers. You just have to laugh it off.
If you have ever completely blanked on a simple vocabulary word and felt like quitting English forever, that is exactly what we are fixing today. We are talking about having a growth mindset.
By the way, welcome to Steve and Abby English. I'm Steve.
And I'm Abby.
And hey, if today's topic has a lot of fast back and forth, grab the free transcript in the description. Reading along while you listen is honestly one of the fastest ways to lock in these phrases.
That is such a good idea.
So today we are talking about the mental side of language learning. Your attitude usually beats pure talent. You were just saying how embarrassed you felt at the coffee shop earlier?
Oh my gosh, yes. It was way too much stress for a simple Tuesday. I was standing there, holding my iced latte, and my brain just went totally empty. I was trying to speak, but absolutely nothing came out. You just feel this heavy weight, like you are failing.
I completely get that. It might feel challenging at first to just accept those blank moments, but that is completely normal. Learning a language is about how you handle those awkward moments when things go wrong. People put way too much pressure on themselves to be absolutely perfect.
Exactly. We think if we are not speaking perfectly, we are doing it wrong. But honestly, the people who actually improve are the ones who just keep showing up. You have to trust the overall process.
Yes, consistency is everything. You will probably make 100 little mistakes every single week, and honestly, that is just a regular part of the journey. Building muscle memory takes plenty of time, so please do not be hard on yourself.
I really need to remember that advice for myself. And you know, speaking of feeling stuck, let's get into our first real talk, because this one is actually from a total disaster I had while trying to learn something totally new last year. So during the winter, I decided I was going to learn how to knit. I wanted to make cozy sweaters and warm scarves for all my friends. I was feeling so confident about it.
Oh, nice! A cozy winter hobby.
Right? I was completely motivated. So I went to this big craft market and bought way too much yarn. I am talking huge, expensive bags of wool, special wooden needles, and the whole setup. For the first two was sitting on my couch every single night, drinking hot tea, watching movies, and just practicing the basic stitch over and over.
That sounds like a great way to decompress after work.
It really was. I actually made a pretty decent scarf. It had a few obvious holes in it, but, you know, it kept my neck warm in the cold weather. I was feeling pretty proud of myself.
Not bad for a beginner.
Thank you. But then, I got a little too confident. I decided I was ready to knit a full sweater. A huge winter sweater with long sleeves and a collar.
Uh-oh. I feel like that is a massive jump in difficulty. Wait, did you even look up a beginner tutorial first?
Yes, I was watching this long video online, but the person was moving their hands so fast. I was trying to follow along, but I ended up dropping stitches everywhere. My expensive yarn was getting all tangled up in giant knots. I completely lost my place in the pattern, and I could not figure out how to fix it.
Oh no, that is so frustrating.
It was terrible. And this is the main point. I just suddenly hit a wall. One day I was having fun, and the next day it felt completely impossible. I looked at this messy ball of yarn on my lap, and I just wanted to cry. I felt like I simply did not have the natural talent for it.
Completely relatable.
So I just packed everything up, threw the whole heavy project into a dark closet, and completely ignored it for a whole month. I felt so guilty every single time I opened that closet door to get a winter coat. It was just sitting there in the dark, secretly judging me.
A classic guilt trip. It might feel challenging to push through, but everyone experiences that drop in progress. It perfectly mirrors how language learners feel.
Exactly. You start out strong. You learn how to introduce yourself in English, and you order some food at a restaurant. You feel amazing. But then you try to have a real, natural conversation with a native speaker, and they start talking fast. You completely lose track of the words, and you panic.
It can be overwhelming.
Right. You hit a wall. You feel like your brain cannot take in any more new information. And because it feels hard, you start telling yourself that you are just bad at languages. You think you should just bail on the whole thing and give up.
Yeah, people start doubting themselves.
Exactly. But with the knitting, I eventually pulled it back out of the closet. I realized I was just rushing the process. I needed to slow down, go back to the basic steps, and just accept that making a sweater was going to take a lot of messy tries. I just had to stick with it.
And did you ever finish the sweater?
I finished one sleeve. Just one single sleeve. But hey, it is a very nice sleeve. I am taking my time with the rest of the project. It may take me until next winter, but I will probably finish it eventually.
Honestly, just finishing one sleeve is solid progress. Hold on, before we go further, you just used some great everyday words there. Let's get into our real talk breakdown. All right, let's look at some of the natural vocabulary you just used. The first phrase we need to discuss is when you said you hit a wall.
Yes, to hit a wall. This is such a visual, everyday idiom. In textbook English, you might say, I stopped making progress, or I lost my ability to continue. But saying you hit a wall captures that sudden, frustrating feeling of being completely blocked.
Exactly. It shows the raw emotion perfectly. You are moving forward and then, boom, you just smash into an invisible wall. Using this makes your English sound much more human instead of sounding like a robot. When you share struggles using casual phrases, people relate to you easily. So, for an example, I was studying grammar for 3 hours, but I hit a wall and had to take a nap.
That is a very real example. I will give another one. During my morning run, I felt great for the first mile, but then I suddenly hit a wall and had to walk.
Perfect. Okay, let's move to the second phrase. Later in the story, you said that to finish the project, you just had to stick with it.
Stick with it. This is a fantastic phrasal verb. Formal English might teach you to say, you must persevere. But in daily life, that sounds a little too stiff. Stick with it is friendly and encouraging. It is what a good friend would naturally say when you feel like giving up.
I love the supportive vibe of this phrase. It creates a picture of staying attached to something, even when it gets difficult. Native speakers use it constantly. For instance, learning to play the piano is tough at first, but if you stick with it, you will improve.
Definitely. And here is another one. The new software system at work is confusing, but I am going to stick with it until I understand it.
Great example. Now, the third word I want to highlight is one I actually used when you were describing your cozy winter evening. I said, knitting was a good way to decompress.
I use this word so much. Instead of just saying I need to relax, decompress feels much deeper. It literally means to release pressure, almost like letting all the air out of a tight balloon.
It captures that feeling of physically relaxing your tense muscles and clearing your mind after a long day. It sounds very natural. You might say, after a busy week of meetings, I just need the weekend to fully decompress.
Or, listening to a quiet podcast on my drive home helps me decompress before walking in the door. It is such a comfortable word to use. Okay, now that we have got those words down, let's look at the flip side in Real Talk 2.
Okay, so since we are talking about making mistakes and not quitting, I have to share a story from a massive business conference I went to a few years ago. I was supposed to give a short presentation to a pretty big room of important colleagues.
Oh wow, public speaking is always nerve-wracking.
It really is. And as you know, I am usually a very organized, structured person. I had all my notes perfectly typed out on little index cards. I had practiced my slides in my hotel room the night before. I was feeling totally ready and confident to step up to the microphone.
You love being perfectly prepared.
Exactly. I do not like leaving things to chance at all. So, the morning sessions finished, and it was finally my turn to present right before the lunch break. I walked up to the front stage, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the audience. There were probably 60 people staring back at me.
That sounds so intimidating. I would be shaking in my shoes. Did you have a strong opening line planned out?
I did. I was supposed to smoothly say, "Thank you all for your generous support." But as I opened my mouth, my tired brain completely crossed two different words. Instead of saying generous support, I loudly thanked everyone for their generous soup.
No way! You literally said soup?
I literally said, "Thank you all for your generous soup," into a microphone, in front of 60 professionals wearing business suits. For a split second, the entire room was completely silent. I could see people looking around, highly confused, trying to figure out if I was making a weird joke about lunch.
That is absolutely hilarious! What did you even do next?
Well, in the past, an embarrassing mistake like that would have completely ruined my self-confidence for the whole week. I would have frozen up, panicked, and wanted to run out of the building. But in that exact moment, I realized I just had to own it. So I smiled and said, "Well, I guess I am just really hungry for lunch."
Classic. Such a good save.
Right? The whole room started laughing out loud. It broke the nervous tension instantly. The rest of the presentation actually went incredibly well because everyone was much more relaxed and friendly. But the main lesson for me was how I handled it afterward in my own head.
How so? What was different this time?
Normally, I would go back to my hotel room and just mentally replay that embarrassing moment over and over again. I would constantly beat myself up about it. I would tell myself I was totally unprofessional and foolish for ruining the opening line.
It is so incredibly easy to do that. We are always our own worst critics. It is a terrible cycle to get trapped in.
It absolutely is. But this time, I decided to simply let it go. I told myself, look, you are human, and human beings simply mess up sometimes. It was just a silly slip of the tongue, not a total career disaster. I refused to beat myself up over a bowl of imaginary soup.
That is such a healthy mindset to have.
It really changes everything. When you accept that you will eventually mess up, you stop fearing the situation. You stop wasting energy worrying about being perfect. For language learners, this mindset is a superpower. If you say the wrong vocabulary word, do not beat yourself up. Just laugh, calmly correct yourself, and keep the conversation moving.
Seriously, nobody cares about the mistakes as much as you do. They just want to connect. That is such a different vibe from the strict rules we worry about. But wait, I heard you drop some interesting phrases. Time for our second Real Talk breakdown. Let's pull out some casual phrases from your soup story. The first one that stood out was when you decided not to beat yourself up over the mistake.
Yes, to beat yourself up. This is a very common phrasal verb. A textbook might tell you to say, "Do not be critical of your actions," but in everyday life, that sounds way too robotic. Beating yourself up paints a clear picture of you being your own worst enemy.
Exactly. It describes that negative internal struggle where you just keep punishing yourself. It might feel a little strange to use such a colorful phrase at first, but that is completely normal. Native speakers use this constantly. For example, I failed my driving test yesterday, but I am trying hard not to beat myself up about it.
That is a perfect example. Here is another one. He was really beating himself up after he completely forgot his best friend's birthday party.
That is definitely the worst feeling. Okay, moving to the second phrase. When the room went quiet, you realized you just had to own it.
To own it. I really love this expression. Instead of saying, "I took full responsibility for my error," which sounds like a corporate email, owning it is much more casual. It means you accept the mistake, you do not hide from it, and you bravely move forward.
It is an empowering phrase. And remember, do not be hard on yourself if it takes time to remember to use it. Building this vocabulary is a process. My example would be, she spilled coffee all over her white shirt right before the meeting, but she just owned it and made a funny joke about it.
Nice one. And my example is, if you make a silly mistake on the group project, just own it, fix the problem, and everyone will simply move on.
Super practical. Now for the third expression. You mentioned that in the past, a public mistake like that would have made you freeze up completely.
Yes, to freeze up. This is exactly what happens when you suddenly cannot speak because you are too nervous. A textbook might say, "I became suddenly paralyzed with fear." But freezing up feels much more relatable.
It really does. It happens to absolutely everyone. So please do not stress out if you freeze up during a conversation in English. Muscle memory takes time. For instance, I completely froze up when that famous actor walked into the restaurant.
I would definitely freeze up too. Here is one more. During the job interview, the manager asked a really tricky question, and I just froze up for a few seconds.
We have covered some great expressions today, but there are a few sneaky traps you need to watch out for. Let's jump into common mistakes and make sure you do not get them wrong.
Now, let's talk about where people usually get this wrong. It is very easy to make small mistakes with these new phrases.
Exactly. The first trap we see all the time is with the word decompress. A lot of intermediate language learners will accidentally say, "I need to decompress myself after work."
Right. The fix here is to simply drop the word myself. You just say, "I need to decompress after work."
And the reason why is that decompress does not need a reflexive pronoun in English. The relaxing action is already built into the word itself.
Perfect. Okay, mistake number 2 involves our cozy knitting phrase, "stick with it." Because it is an action in the past, learners often try to say, "I sticked with the project."
I hear that specific mistake so much in daily conversations. But the correct fix is, "I stuck with the project."
Exactly. The verb stick is completely irregular, so the past tense changes to stuck. You just have to build that muscle memory over time.
It is a tricky one. The third common mistake comes from my favorite phrase today. People will try to say, "I always beat myself when I make an error."
Oh, that sounds so incredibly physically aggressive. The fix is, you must add the word up. You have to say, "I always beat myself up."
Right. Without the word up, it literally sounds like you are physically hitting yourself with your very own hands. Adding up changes it back to a mental feeling.
That is a crucial difference to remember. All right, let's do a fast, rapid review of those rules.
Do not say decompress myself. Say decompress.
Please do not say, "I sticked with it." Say, "I stuck with it."
And please do not say beat myself. Say beat myself up.
And that is how you avoid those traps. But how does real spoken English compare to what you learned in school? Let's check out textbook versus real life.
Welcome to Textbook versus Real Life today. Remember, textbook English is totally fine and 100% understandable, so please do not be hard on yourself.
Exactly. We just want to help you sound a little bit more like a natural local. Here is our first example. Textbook. I made a big mistake in my speech.
Real life. I completely messed up my speech.
Messed up is a much more casual and common way to talk about small everyday accidents. Okay, number 2. Textbook. I do not want to stop my new hobby.
Real life. I am going to stick with my new hobby.
Stick with it sounds way more supportive and friendly in casual conversation. Here is number 3. Textbook. I suddenly forgot what I wanted to say.
Real life. I totally blanked on what to say.
Blanked paints a really great picture of your brain completely and instantly emptying out. Moving to number 4. Textbook. I could not continue reading the book.
Real life. I completely hit a wall with the book.
Hit a wall shows that sudden, tired feeling of being totally and fully blocked. And our final one, number 5. Textbook. I am very angry at myself today.
Real life. I am really beating myself up today.
Beating yourself up shows that heavy mental frustration so much better than just being angry.
All right, you have heard us talk enough today. It is time for you to build that muscle memory. Let's jump straight into the fun shadowing practice.
Welcome to the shadowing practice. Here is a quick pro tip before we begin. Make sure you hit the pause button on your screen after you hear each sentence and repeat it out loud at your own comfortable pace.
Our first sentence today is about feeling completely blocked and tired. Use this short expression when you simply cannot focus anymore. Listen and repeat.
I completely hit a wall today.
I completely hit a wall today.
Moving on to the second one. This next phrase is perfect for when you make a mistake and just need to accept it bravely. Here we go. Just own it and move on.
Just own it and move on.
And our final expression is about relaxing. You can say this when you finally get home from a very stressful day. Listen and repeat. I need to decompress after work.
I need to decompress after work.
Really great job practicing today. Let's wrap things up now with some final thoughts.
So, our biggest lesson today is that making small speaking mistakes is completely normal. The way you handle those mistakes is what actually helps you learn.
We know that learning English takes a lot of time, and some days will feel really slow. But every single time you show up to practice, you are moving forward. Just remember to stay consistent, stay curious, and trust the process.
If you enjoyed today's chat, please hit the like button because it only takes 2 seconds and truly helps our channel reach more learners just like you. Also, be sure to subscribe because we release brand new episodes every single week.
Now we want to hear from you. So what is one English word you always forget when you are nervous? Let us know your answer or share any other struggles down in the comments below.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Go ahead and click on the next video on the screen to keep leveling up your English.